Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Sunday morning Parsha class. The Parsha of Emor can be found on page 780 in the Good Chumash, chapter 21 of the book of Vayikra, the book of Leviticus. Start with Alachayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyah b'dvaro. Okay, so the Parsha of Emor is another Parsha that deals with a lot of various laws. A lot of it related to like Leviticus, the Levites, various gifts, the various offerings. But we're going to focus on the last section of the Parsha. The last section of the Parsha, the Chumash, the Parsha goes through the various festivals, the holidays, and how they are celebrated. It begins with Shabbos, and it goes around the calendar, starting with Pesach, Sfiras Baomer, Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. Goes through the holidays. So we're going to focus a little bit on the part that deals with the time of year that we are in right now. Today, these weeks, we are in the time of Sfira, right? We've heard that before, Sfirat Omer. So, and then this week, as you see on this poster behind me, you have Lag Baomer. Thursday night and Friday is Lag Baomer. Lag Baomer means 33, Lamed Gimel, 33. It's the 33rd day of the Omer. What is so significant about the 33rd day of the Omer? So let's begin with taking a step back to understand, what is this Omer business? What is this counting the Omer? What are we counting exactly? And what is the significance of this time? So the Torah tells us that every year on the second day of Passover, the second day of Pesach, we bring an offering. And this offering is called the offering of the Omer. What's this Omer offering? They would take the new crop, the new wheat. It was actually barley. And they would take the barley from all the new harvest wheat, and they would bring an offering on the second day of Pesach. Up until that point, it was forbidden for anyone to eat, to consume the new crop. So if you had flour and you were a month before Pesach, you weren't, and it was just freshly harvested a few months previously, in the calendar, agricultural calendar in Israel, harvest is usually in the fall. Right, so you have a number of months. So you have accumulation of new crop. You're making flour. You can't use it. You got to wait till the second day of Pesach when they bring the Omer offering. Second day of Pesach. Now it is permitted to consume, to eat all of the new crop. So flour or whatever you're making it, using it for, it is permitted. And it's permitted till, the following Pesach. So anything that was harvested after Pesach, you got to wait till the following Pesach. There's this different discussion whether it applies outside of Israel. Does it apply today when there's no carbon Omer? We follow the opinion that outside of Israel today it does not apply. So we don't have this restriction over here, but some people do keep it, and sometimes you'll find on some kosher bakery goods, if you look at working in a kosher store, you may have seen this. It says chadash or yashan, not chadash. Yashan means old. Not saying that the cookies are old and they're spoiled and they're moldy, but yashan means this is from flour from before the previous Pesach, which in today's productions, it's not that difficult because the time it gets from the field to the shelf is a while, but some people, are always looking out for that. But this is the idea. So you have an Omer offering that permits the consumption of all crop from on the second day of Pesach. Then the Torah says something interesting. The Torah says there's another similar to the Omer offering that is done 50 days later. Count 50 days from the second day of Pesach. If you look at the calendar, what day is that going to be? It's going to be the first day of Shavuos. And on the first day of Shavuos, 50 days from the Omer offering, you bring another offering, also from the wheat. And here, it's called, you make 2 loaves of bread. It's called the shtei halechem, 2 loaves of bread. And through this 2 loaves of bread, bring as an offering, now you permit using the new wheat in the temple as well. Not only is it personal consumption allowed, now you're also allowed to use it as a mincha offering in the temple. So that's 50 days later. But the Torah uses this idea that we should count 50 days. The Torah doesn't say, look at your calendar and, mark down 50 days later, this is Shavuos. The Torah says, count 50 days. So that's where we have this idea of counting. Sfirat ha'omer, the counting of the Omer. We're counting 50 days from the Omer. I want to read this inside. It's going to be on page 796, 797. Chapter 23, verse 15. After the Torah, just a few verses previously, introduces to us the idea of the Omer offering, we continue with what happens after the second day of Pesach. You brought your Omer offering. Usfartem lachem mimacharas hashabos. You should count for yourselves. In other words, each and every person, each and every individual should do this counting. It's not just, the community is counting, the Beis Din is counting. No, each and every individual should count. Mimacharas hashabos, from the day after Shabbos. Here, Shabbos does not refer to Shabbos necessarily, but it refers to the second day of Yom Tov, or from the day after the first day of Yom Tov. So basically, the second day of Yom Tov. From the day that you brought this Omer, which is considered a wave offering, Sheva Shabbosais Tmimois Dihiyana. You should count 7 weeks. How much is 7 weeks? 49 days. Which basically means you count 49 days, and then on the 50th day is this holiday. Which reminds me of the story of the Shlamazel. You know what the Shlamazel is? The guy that has no luck. And he comes to town, and they tell him, why don't you buy a lottery ticket? Because it used to be where the guy that's selling lottery tickets would travel from city to city, and he says he's in town today. Buy yourself a lottery ticket. Maybe you'll win. He says, I'm a shlamazel. I never win. I have no luck. He says, try it. Maybe, that can't hurt. Okay, so he buys a lottery ticket. And lo and behold, who wins the lottery? Shlamazel wins the lottery. So they ask him, how did he do it? That's amazing. You always have no luck, and look, you won the lottery. He says, it's half mazel, it's half luck, it's half seichel. Half is a strategy. So what's the strategy? He says, I was always told that 7 is a lucky number. So I told myself, if 7 is a lucky number, so 7 times 7 must be a very lucky number. So I chose the number 48. I say 48, but 7 times 7 is 49. So yeah, that's where the mazel comes in. It's a mazel, I'm bad at math. Anyways, so the Torah says you should count 7 weeks, 7 complete weeks. If you notice the word timimos, 7 complete weeks, And the idea of completion means that you have to begin counting at night, so it's complete, right? You start at the beginning of the night, beginning of the day, which is starts at night, and we don't accept or bring in the 50th day, the holiday of Shavuos, till it gets nightfall as well, which is till today, where even though sometimes people like to bring in Shabbos early or bring in the holiday early, pray early, light candles early, but when it comes to Shavuos, the 50th day of the Sphira, of the count, we're supposed to wait specifically till it gets nightfall, because you have to have complete 7 weeks. Until the day after the 7 weeks, and you should count you count 50 days. And what happens on the 50th day? And then we bring this new mincha offering to Hashem. And it goes on talking to us what it is. It's basically 2 loaves of bread, which were actually chametz, one of the very few offerings in the temple that were chametz. Generally, it was all kosher for Passover. This and the Thanksgiving offering were chametz, and it goes into the specifics, everything else that comes with it. And then jump to verse 21 on the next page. You should proclaim this very day, mikra kodesh yihi yalachem. This very day is going to be a day of a holy day, a day of celebration. We don't do any work, and this is my eternal statute in all places, wherever you live. In other words, the 50th day is a holiday. Now, notice that we don't mention anything about Shavuos. The word Shavuos is not mentioned over here. The next thing we go on to is Rosh Hashanah, at the next page, right? So we know this as the holiday of Shavuos. What happened on Shavuos? What are we celebrating on Shavuos? We got the Torah. It's even in the prayer. It says, when we pray, we say, Zman Matan Toratenu. It's the time that when we received our Torah. But when the Torah talks about Shavuos, there's no mention of the giving of the Torah. Also, interestingly, the Torah doesn't give us a date on the calendar for Shavuos. Every other holiday, there's an exact date. It's the 15th day of the first month, which is Nisan. It's the first day of the 7th month, Rosh Hashanah, right? There's always a date, the 10th of the 7th month, Yom Kippur, a date on the month. We know when the holiday is. With this holiday, the only reference we have is 50 days from the second day of Pesach. Count 50 days. It's the 50th day. No day in the month. Which is interesting because today we have set months. But back in the day, we know that the Beis Din would basically decide every month whether it was a 2-day Rosh Chodesh or a 1-day Rosh Chodesh. In other words, whether it was a 30-day month or a 29-day month. And there was no telling in advance. So if we're counting 50 days from Pesach, and we have the month of Nisan, which is a few days later, then there's the month of Iyar. There are 2 months that you have to consider if they have 29 days or 30 days. And depending on that, the final 50th day is going to be on a different day on the calendar. It could be on the 5th day of Sivan, or the 6th, or the 7th. In fact, sometimes Shavuos, biblical Shavuos, may not even be on the same day we received the Torah. Because we received the Torah on the 6th. But if the month of Nisan has 30 days, or the month of Iyar has 30 days, so the 50th day is going to be on the 5th of Sivan, a day earlier. Which is a discussion for itself, why that was done. But that's something interesting to point out, that there's a strong emphasis on us counting the 50 days. And that's the mitzvah that we have told today, even when we don't have the Omer offering, at least rabbinic mitzvah, that we count, each and every one of us, we count 50 days. We count the Omer. But we are told that counting of the Omer, although it's not explicitly mentioned in the Torah, there is other significance to the counting of the Omer. The Jewish people also counted before the mitzvah of Omer came around. What were they counting to? They were counting to receiving of the Torah. When they came out of Egypt, they knew that they're going to receive the Torah very soon on Mount Sinai. They were so excited. They were counting the days. They were literally counting the days. It reminds me, we're all very, very excited when we have a child. A baby's born. Oh, what a simcha. When my oldest sister was pregnant with her oldest child, my oldest niece, she was so excited. I walked into her house once, her apartment in Crown Heights, and I look at her calendar, and all that she has on her calendar is just a countdown, a countdown to her due date. Wow, that's very exciting, right? We're countdown, we're excited, we're counting to the receiving of the Torah. Wow, the Jewish people were so excited. So till today, we count the days of the Omer for that same reason, because we are reliving that excitement. We are reliving that celebration that the Jewish people had for the very first time, that we are going to receive the Torah again. As we know, when we receive the Torah, when we celebrate Shavuos, it's not only to remember what happened thousands of years ago, but we reclaim and we receive the Torah anew, and we're supposed to have that same excitement as we had then to receive the Torah. So we count the days of the Omer. So the counting of the Omer is seen as a celebratory type of idea, and it's exciting. We're getting ready to receive the Torah. Who shouldn't be excited? It's a reason to celebrate. That's the idea of counting of the Omer. In fact, some say that just like Passover has the first day is a holiday and then the last day is a holiday. Sukkot, the first days are holidays and the last days are holidays. Right? We have the in-between days, Chol HaMoed, but the rest of it is in between the holidays. Shavuos is almost like the continuation of Pesach, right? We're counting 50 days, but really it's like one continuation. So it's like from Pesach till Shavuos really should be one long holiday. It's like we're celebrating leaving Egypt, and the culmination of leaving Egypt was receiving the Torah a few weeks later. It's all part of this big holiday. However, we also know that historically, something very, very sad and painful happened during this time. We all know that during the times of Sphere, there are certain restrictions in celebration that we have. It's a time of mourning. We don't shave, take haircuts. Wondering why I have a beard today. We don't listen to live music. There are certain restrictions that we have during the time of Sphere Sa'omer. And why is that? Because about 2,000 years ago, a little less than 2,000 years ago, there was a great man by the name of Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva, we know his story, amazing story. At the age of 40, he began his journey in Torah study and became one of the greatest sages. Accumulated 24,000 students, but unfortunately, they all passed away in a very short period during the times of Sphere Somer. And because of that, till today, we kind of we tone down our celebration as we are getting excited to receive the Torah, but remembering 24,000 of the greatest giants that passed away in such a short time. This is that Israel was like empty. There was like this emptiness being felt after all these thousands and thousands of students died. And then we have Lag Baomer. Lag Baomer, which is Lag, Lamed Gimel, the 33rd day of the Omer. This year it's going to be Thursday night and Friday, which is a big celebration. We're celebrating bonfires, music, picnics, barbecues, bounce houses. Bow and arrows. Whatnot. It's such a fun time to be together in the community. It's such a big celebration. But what happened? What happened like Baomer? So what happened? Numerous things happened. First of all, the great sage Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai passed away. And he himself said that the day I passed away should be a hilula, it should be like a wedding. It should be a celebration. He wanted us to celebrate on the day he passed away. So we're celebrating for the Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who just got a message from my daughter Zelda, who is in Israel now on her graduation trip, she went to Miron today. She was in Miron by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. watching how they preparing for this big celebration on Lag Baomer. She's very excited. From there, she's going to Tzfat. Oh, great city of Tzfat. We love Tzfat. So that's so right. We know thousands, hundreds of thousands. And unfortunately, there was a big incident where people died a few years ago. So it's more limited these days. But a big celebration in Miron in northern Israel by the Rashbi. But there's another explanation to the celebration of Lag Baomer, and that is that this plague that went through and killed the 24,000 students, it stopped on Lag Baomer. So it's a day of celebration. Wait, it's a day of celebration because the 24,000 students stopped dying, but they all died. They all died. 24,000 students died. So the fact that now it was over, so now we're celebrating. I mean, it's hard to even fathom what it means. Think of Rabbi Akiva. He has 24,000 students. I don't know if it means literally coming to his class in one building, or it means people who are influenced by his teachings, but these are his followers. These were his followers. 24,000 die within a few weeks. How many funerals is that every day? I mean, it's hard to fathom the pain and the difficulty. And then after they all died, what day was it? It was Lag Baomer. Oh, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate that now they're all dead, or now they stopped dying. I mean, what's the celebration exactly? So that's something very interesting. God forbid, we're not celebrating the fact that now, the plague is over. I mean, what's it to celebrate? There's 24,000 students, they all died. I mean, it's a terrible thing. I mean, we're celebrating what happened after the plague. What happened after the plague? Just think of Rabbi Akiva. He's building himself up. Of course, he wasn't thinking about himself, but 12 years, he accumulated 12,000 students. After 24 years, 24,000 students. He's teaching, he's learning, he has a great following. Now they all die. What would be the natural response after all this happened? Retreat and say, okay, we'll close the doors of the yeshiva. It was great while it lasted. And now, whatever, we'll just kind of roll up under our covers and whatever, we'll just live life, however we're able to live life. That's not what Rabbi Akiva did. Rabbi Akiva gathered another 5 students or 7 students. And he says, we got to continue. We got to continue teaching. We got to continue studying. And he continues with these 5 students. One of them was the great Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Rashbi. There were others, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, I think Rabbi Yossi, I forget the other names. Yochanan Hassandler was also, according to the version, that there were 7 students. There were new students, 5 new students. And he says, we're going to continue. Now, from these 5 students, each of them became a giant in Torah and taught us so much. I mean, the Rashbi, just himself, right? He gave us the whole Zohar and all the great teachings of the Rashbi. Imagine if Rabbi Akiva wouldn't have said that. We wouldn't have had all these great teachings. He basically reconstructed Torah study with these 5 new students. And that is what we're celebrating. What we're celebrating is not now that they're not dying anymore, but we're celebrating that now that they stopped dying, we continue on. We find the strength somewhere deep down to continue going, continue moving, not giving up. Rabbi Akiva wasn't a young man. I mean, we know that he was 40 when he went to study. And this was 20, at least 24 years later, but perhaps even after that. Because after 24 years is when he accumulated 24,000. So we're talking about he's at least 65 years old, perhaps even older. He says, no, we're going to continue. And that's the message. That's what we're celebrating. You may have difficult times, or it may just be not difficult times. You may just feel, I'm ready to retire. I have accomplished enough. And the Torah says, look at Rabbi Akiva. We're here for a purpose. We're here for a mission. If we're here in life just to enjoy, give back a little bit when it's comfortable, when it feels good, then you're right. The earlier you can retire, the earlier you can relax and just enjoy life. That's what we all want to do, right? We're waiting, when can I get my pension? Just enjoy life. But that's not what the Torah teaches us. The Torah teaches us we're here to work. We're here to give. We're here to make a difference. Yeah, we may have to change the setting. We may have to change what we're able to do. Maybe at an older age, we can't do what we're doing at a younger age, but we still got to be active. You got to be active. We learn from Avram Avinu. 99 years old. 99 years old. I'm done. I finished my life. 99. Let me just sit and relax. I'll watch the grandkids play. I mean, come on, right? God tells him, you got to circumcise yourself. Which it wasn't just the physical act of circumcision. It means you got to elevate yourself. Enter this new stage in your relationship with God, more refined, more spiritual. Avram could have said, God, come on, speak to the younger guys, speak to Yitzchak, speak to Ishmael, speak to the next generation. They're young, they're energetic, they're starting out. They'll make these major changes. I lived my life already. I did what I did. No, 99 years old, starting new, starting fresh. There was this great rabbi, which many of you have heard of, Rabbi Moshe Katlarsky, who passed away recently, but he, many years, he was very much involved running the whole Shlichus empire under the Rebbe. So he once brought a doctor to the Rebbe. It was during Kos Shel Bracha. After a holiday, the Rebbe will make Havdalah, and then the Rebbe would distribute from his wine to thousands of people. People would come and get a little wine from the Rebbe. So he brought this doctor to 770 to the Rebbe, and this was a doctor this was in the 1980s, but in the 1960s, he was very active. He was actually the Rebbe's mother's doctor, and we know the Rebbe's mother passed away. It was on a Shabbos, and like during the Farbrengen, she was taken to the hospital, and there was some interaction with the Rebbe. So he was like basically the Rebbe's mother's doctor, and he was involved around in the community for many years. But this is already 1980. So the Rebbe sees him. The Rebbe actually put down his cup. The Rebbe starts speaking to him, and he says, "I haven't seen you recently. We haven't seen you recently." So he says, "Rebbe, I retired." Never told the Rebbe you retired. Bad idea. So the Rebbe says, "Why?" I don't remember exactly. Something about why do you retire? You should continue working. So he says, "My eyesight is not as good as it used to be, and my hands are not as steady, so I can't do the same as I used to. So I retired." The Rebbe said, "You shouldn't retire. You could go into research. You could, help and guide other younger doctors. You don't have to do the exact same thing, but remain active. Don't retire." Sometimes we got to change the settings, change what we're doing, but remain active. Be involved. Don't just. I saw a video yesterday. Actually, someone showed me last night. Someone came by the Rebbe also with a private audience and talking to the Rebbe. This is on video. And he told the Rebbe, he didn't look so old. If I had to guess, he was probably in his 60s, maybe 70s. And he told the Rebbe that thank God he has enough money to live. He has enough money to give charity. He's done well in business. And now what he wants to do is he wants to spend 2 hours a day studying Torah. 2 hours a day he was going to help in the local Chabad house. He was going to work in Chabad in whatever capacity he was going to help over there. And then the rest he was going to, take easy, whatever, enjoy, relax. And he says, I'm able to do it. Like, thank God. So the Rebbe says, you should remain in business. Continue doing business. Even just a little bit. Just continue doing business. Don't stop. He says it's important for people to see that even someone in business is also spending hours studying Torah, giving charity, working in the Chabad house. It's not either business or this. You can do it together. Even a businessman is able to do that. But the idea is we never say, I had enough. I'm done. I finished. Now I'm just going to relax. If we're here to give, we got to give until we're physically unable to. We're always in that mode of giving and never giving up. I was looking for the details, the specifics of this story. I wasn't able to find it, but I remember hearing a story where someone met someone at the Kotel, at the Western Wall. And he started talking to him, and he said he's here in Israel. He's starting to invest in this new project. And it was like a major, major new project. And he looked at him, he looked like an older man. He was in his high 80s. And he says, like, you've lived a great life. You were very successful in your business. You're like 89 years old. Like, why are you taking on this major new project at this age? So he said that he was actually by the Rebbe many years earlier. The Rebbe told him, based on the story of Avram Avinu, that at the age of 99, he was willing to start new, start this new adventure, new, path in life with getting a circumcision. It's never too late. No matter how old you are, you should continue working and giving and producing, and that's what we're here for. So he said he heard that. He says, I was going to retire at this age, but I decided this opportunity came before me. I'm going all into it. Why? Because we're here to serve. And this is, I think, a powerful message that you can take from Rabbi Akiva. The days of Sfira, yes, we had the terrible plague of the 24,000 students, but what we're celebrating on Lag Baomer is the fact what happens the day after. What happens the day after is we get back up and we continue trucking, we continue moving, we continue producing, we get to continue giving. That is what is demanded of us. It may not be easy, not always easy, easier said than done, but that's what we got to do. So that's my little thoughts for this week's Parsha of Emor. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next week for our next Parsha. Yes.
So I think I had heard.
Thank you.